Hey everybody, this is Brian Yearling, and this video is a part of a series in which we're looking at Google Contacts. And this is kind of the next step up, so it's actually not focusing on Google Contacts specifically, but a way of collecting emails that you can put into Google Contacts efficiently and ultimately get lists of parents or students' emails without having to type them all in yourself. So what we're going to use is we're going to use a tool called Google Forms. We'll dive deeper into Google Forms in other videos, but this is a contacts-related use of forms, so I wanted to show you how to do that. So we're logged in. You can see I'm logged in here to my Google Apps accounts, and I'm going to go over to Google Drive. Again, if you're not familiar with Google Drive, that's fine. We're gonna touch up on that in other videos, but in this particular one, we're going to use Google Forms, which is a part of Google Drive. We're going to click on Create, and we're going to click on Form. So the basic idea here is I want to create a group of emails, or I want to gather emails from my students without having to type every one of them in and risking the error of, poor mistyping of emails or something like that, or just the loss of time. So generally speaking, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give my students a link to go and enter their email address. And then from there, we are going to be able to copy that list into our Google Contacts group. So here we are in Google Forms. And Google Forms, generally look this way. There is a new look coming to Google Forms, so you may see something that looks a little bit different than this, but generally speaking, we're going to give it a title like this. So here's what the kids will see. I am going to call this my email collection form. This form is simply used to collect your school district email account for use by your teachers. Okay. Now, up near the top here, I'm in my school district of Waukesha account. Here's one thing that you're going to have to know, and that is if you and your students are in the same Google domain. So what that means is, does your student body share the same email address, everything after the @ sign, as the teachers? If they do, we can actually have the Google form automatically collect that information for you. And we would do that by selecting up here where it says require school district of, and then whatever your school district is, okay, to sign in to view this form. And then we'd also click automatically collect respondents username of your district. So if your students are in your domain, your Google Apps domain, meaning that you have the same end of the email address, so for us at stu.waukesha.k12.wi.us or at your school address, then this works. If your students, though, do not have the same email address, or you're collecting something from your parents per se, who wouldn't have all of those same email addresses, this will not work, and you'll have to actually type in a question to collect that information. If you're not sure, to be on the safe side, I would not select those two. If you are sure, that's a more efficient, accurate way of doing this. So for this example, we're not going to do that. The first question that I am going to ask is, what is your last name? Now you'll see I've got two sample questions. All Google Forms start with two sample questions here. Kind of long and short of it, here is the question. So it's called the question title. Here's any helpful text that might help the responder give you the information you're looking for. So for instance, please be sure to only type your last name, or something like that. And then here are the types of questions that we can ask. For this particular use only, we are going to ask text questions. You'll notice I'm specifying what is your last name in this because of the way this breaks down, and I'll show you in just a moment how this breaks down in the spreadsheet. Here we have our edit button, our duplicate button, and our trash button if you want to get rid of it. Here we have the ability to make this a required question. I would strongly recommend for this particular application of Google Forms, you make all 3 fields a required question. That means that they cannot submit the data to you until they have completed all 3 fields. Now, the catch there is they don't have to complete all 3 fields accurately, but they do have to put something in all 3 fields. So what is your last name? The second question we want to edit, sample question 2. To edit, I click on the pencil. What is your first name? And that's good. We're all set there. I am again going to make this a required question, and done. And now I need to add a third question. Well, how do we do that? Up here we click Add Item. So hopefully you're seeing that in the far upper left. And these are the types of questions that we can add, and these are some other pieces that more advanced UC would use. Remember, we are collecting text, which means basically they can type in anything they want to type in. So we click Text here, and I'm going to ask a very specific question. What is your school district provided email address? In the help test, please be sure to type the complete email address. So that's just a reminder to them that the beginning part of their email is not good enough. And also I'm going to add in there, please make sure to only include your district provided email address. We really want kids to focus on using their district address. That's their professional address for our uses at school, and makes sharing so much easier when they do that. Lots of your kids may have other email addresses that they may prefer to use. Strongly recommend you point them back into for school purposes using their school provided address. I'm going to make this a required question, and now with 3 questions, I am going to collect the data that I need to quickly and easily make an email group. So what do we do from there? We're going to click Save up here. All right, it's done its work. We're all set to go here. Now, if you're not familiar with Google Forms, here's basically what happens. What we're creating is, right now, the interface that the students are going to interact with. This will have its own URL or web address, and that web address is what we want to share with them. What happens on the back end, though, is the piece that people don't always understand or don't really get, especially if you're not familiar with how to use spreadsheets. So you'll notice that the name is Email Collection Form. When I go back to my drive, my Google Drive, and let's see if we can bring up sort by last modified. Okay, so here it is. It has created a Google spreadsheet for me. So even though this is the form, the questions that we're creating that the students are going to fill out, that form has to put the data somewhere, and it puts that data into a spreadsheet. So I'm going to go into Email Collection Form Spreadsheet, and you'll notice that my questions that I typed for the form have automatically found their way into the top field of the spreadsheet. So they're in the top row there. Okay, it is timestamped, so when they complete, when a student adds data to that form or completes that form, it's going to be timestamped, and their data is going to be dropped in here. So as you can see, this is where it becomes really nice and important to have your data very clearly spread apart. I've asked for what is your last name because if later on I want to use this for a class list or a class roster, I can spread them apart. Some students, if I didn't do that, might type their names such as Brian Yearling. Some students might type their name Yearling, Brian. Some students might just type their first name or just their last name. So if I can very specifically design the questions so that I get exactly the data I want so I can later sort it and do whatever I need to do with it, that's a really good best practice for using Google Forms. With that said, what I'm really interested in is what is your school district provided email address. So when we create a Google form, we have 2 pieces. We create the front side interface that the students or the parents would complete that automatically, without doing anything, generates a back-end spreadsheet in Google Drive with the same name as the form. Okay, now how do I get this out to my kids, which is often the question, right? How do I get this form out so that people can fill it out? Well, what I'm going to do here, I've got a couple of options. I could email this form. That's one option. The problem is I am using this form to collect emails. So emailing this form is not a great option. In future uses, it could be. Let's see. I could look at responses, but I don't have any responses to look at right now. So the easiest way to get this out to the world is down here at the bottom. It says you can view the published form here. And if I copy that link right there, so I'm going to copy, and I'm going to paste that into, for instance, a new window here. This is what my form looks like. And this, that address that I just highlighted, copied, and pasted here, is what we need to share with our students. This is what we need to get out to them. So, once we have that form, and this is the really fun part, and let me see if I can pull this off and get a side-by-side for you to look at. Okay, sorry, bear with me for a second. This will be worth it in the end. I promise you. Okay. This is powerful data collection. Here, I'm going to put in Yearling. Ella Yearling at hotmail.com. And I'm going to submit that. Watch what happens over here on the left-hand side. I submit it over here in the form, and it pops into my spreadsheet live time. Submit another response. You'll notice the little red stars tell me that they are required. So, for instance, my next daughter doesn't follow the directions very well and puts her email address in and clicks submit. It's going to say, whoa, 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 you need all of the information. So this makes sure that the data that I need is collected properly. And let's do just one more here. So we'll just do the whole family here. That's the dog, by the way, well, one of the dogs. And okay, so we've got 3 data sets there. So that's what a Google form can do for you. And what it does is it drops it into the spreadsheet. So getting this link out to your kids is the challenge. There are lots of ways to do that, but that's going to be the challenge. How do I get this out to my parents, or how do I get this out to my families? One of the key pieces that is a good little tip is if you can find a URL shortener. So let me drop this back in here. Okay. A URL shortener makes a really long, complex web address into a really short web address. I'm going to go to something like goo.gl. So goo.gl is a URL shortener. I'm going to paste my really long URL. This is for my Google form. And this is the new address. Now, so both of them work, the long one or the short one. And here's what I could, for instance, write up on the board, or I could put in on a handout for the kids to easily type in and get to. Okay, http:// and this, everything that follows there will take them to my Google form easily so that they can type it out. I will let you know that is case sensitive. So for instance, the U there has to be capitalized for them to get there. But that's an easy way to get the students or parents to it. And then from there, they can complete the email form here, and the data will dump in. What do we do? That's the whole point of this, right? How do we get this off to them into our Google contact group? So a long way of getting this information there. But once I've got this set up and done really well, I'm going to go to my Google Gmail. I'm going to click on Contacts. And I am going to create a new group. Actually, we'll use the one that we created from the last example. Our 2 English students. and I want to add all of those emails that I've collected from all 35 or 100 kids or how many ever you have, I simply click the plus button. I go to my spreadsheet. I highlight the column of information that I need. I'm going to copy it, and then I can paste it right in there. No, that's not the right one. Hang on there. Gotta get the right copy done here. I copy it, paste it in there, and then the last part is we're going to add that. You'll notice because it was in column form, it adds them in here, and I now have an updated contact list that I can go to my mail, and we're doing mail, and I'm going to send this out to our 2, and there's our 2. Remember, I told you it might take you a little time to get that in there, but there it is, and it will send out to the students that need to be in there, our 1. It'll send that information out to them. So with that said, that's how we update our contact list using Google Forms and tying it all together without us having to enter every single student. Hope that helps. Thanks for listening.